you're gonna do TPPS first? You're gonna do LCAS?
Yeah.
Okay, so the board's gonna go sit down while presentations are happening, so we'll just take a second to do that. So all of us, we're gonna go sit over here,
Okay.
and then we'll come back.
All right, could I have the food service staff come on down? So we have a Taking Positive Steps to Service Award. The School District of Lodi Administrative Team is recommending the Food Service Department for a TPSS Award. The Food Service Department transitioned on March of 2021 from a district department to a contracted service department, TAHR, without falter. The Food Service Department has had many challenges to navigate during the pandemic, serving style changes, bagging meals, food delivery, fee collection, home delivery, and several other variables around keeping Lodi students fed safely during these times have challenged the food service team. With dedication and flexibility, the Food Service Department continues to move the food service program forward in the face of adversity. While food supply shortages and USDA restrictions on food ingredients have limited the food choices for student meals, the Food Service Department has continued to ensure that the Lodi students will be provided the most nutritious and healthy meals possible. The School District of Lodi is very grateful to have such a dedicated team of people serving our children with meals. With great pleasure and honor, the School District of Lodi Administrative Team and District recommends the Food Service Department for a Taking Positive Step of Service Award. So a round of applause for these great people. All right, we have a certificate for people. We have Karen Ripp. Melissa Goodline. Laura Gordon is not here. Heather Klickle Hermanson. Yeah. Jean Markgraf. And Diane Lewick. And with that, you get a raise. You get $100,000. Finally. There you go. So does anybody want to say anything?
I just want to say thanks to my team because they do a great job and they really have put their heart and soul into getting us through the summer and getting the meals to everyone and with all the bags. And I'm sure they go home and look at bags and go, oh my God. But they've done a great job and they've really transitioned well. They welcome me. I'm brand new and they've been helping me. And we're just getting it done and hiring new people and getting everybody going. And hopefully we'll get to do some fun stuff by the end of the year and COVID will be history next year.
Yeah, so I'm going to send this with you for our other employees who couldn't make it tonight. I'm just going to read off them as well. Jill Daling, Charlene, Carrie Riley, John Stefani, Stephanie Timmons, Vicki Bartholomew, Mary Varner, and Pat Miller. Again, one more round of applause for our food service. This goes as well. No, thank you. And on top of that, I just wanted to let you know that here's a proclamation from the Department of Public Instruction. Whereas the National School Lunch Program has served our nation admirably for 75 years through advanced practice in nutrition education, whereas more than 2,400 public and private schools in Wisconsin are providing meals at no cost to students and their families under the National School Lunch Program Seamless Summer Option during the 21-22 school year, whereas there's evidence of continued need for nutritional education awareness of the value of school nutrition programs, and whereas the success of this effort is due largely to the resourcefulness and creative local food service administration, managers and staff workers in cooperation with parents, teachers, community groups, government personnel, and students. Therefore, let it be resolved that I, Jill K. Underly, State Superintendent of Public Instruction declared October 11th through the 15th, 2021 National School Lunch Week, a time to celebrate the importance of the program helping keep students nourished so they can learn. So congratulations on National School Lunch Week. Thanks, guys. And is Jen Morgan here? I don't see her. Oh, there she is. Come on down, Jen. Jen Morgan is also being recommended for a Taking Positive Steps for Students award, in her part for assisting the Lodi EMT, Lodi Police, and School District of Lodi in managing a student vehicle accident recently in the city of Lodi. Ms. Morgan was the first school district staff member on the scene at the site of the accident. Throughout this situation, Ms. Morgan was calm and present, who assisted the EMT and Lodi Police staff, as well as comforting the child and his sibling. Coincidentally, Ms. Morgan knew the child and the parents of the child, and was able to resourcefully get access to the parents for the EMT team to begin their communication about the status of the situation and next step with the student. We were thoroughly impressed with Ms. Morgan's communication and presence throughout the situation. Her communication strategy with the child's parent prevented an escalation of emotion. Ms. Morgan comforted the student in the accident, and the student's sibling, and the parent. The whole situation could have been more traumatic had not Ms. Morgan played the role she did at the accident. The School District of Lodi is very fortunate to have Jen Morgan as an employee. For all those reasons and more, he's being recommended, Jen Morgan, for a Taking Positive Steps for Service award. There's your certificate and $100,000. All right, and now I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Steinberg to swear in our newest board member.
The internet is down.
Yeah, so for those of you who are here, the internet is down, so we are not live streaming this meeting, but we are taping the meeting, and we'll put it up on YouTube as soon as we're able. So.
So I have the oath of office on my phone. So you would, how do we always do this? We just have, I always hate to read this twice. So why don't I just have you read and fill in your name and the office.
Okay. So starting like right
Yep.
here?
So I, and then your name, and then there, and then the office of student rep on the school board. And then read that.
Okay. I, Ashley Richard, having been elected or appointed to the office of student representative on the school board, but have not yet entered upon the duties thereof, swear or affirm that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the state of Wisconsin, and will faithfully discharge the duties of said office to be the best of my ability. So help me God.
Very cool. Can I get a picture with you?
Sure.
Okay.
We are now going to start off with a presentation by LCAT. So I'm going to turn this over to, that's yours, Mr. Ricks.
All right, thank you. Thanks for having us tonight. I know you guys have a busy agenda, so we're going to try to keep this short, but you know me, and you haven't met Brian yet, but he's just like me, so this may take a while. No, we'll do quick. I do want to introduce Brian to you very quickly. This is Brian Bilsey. He's our new project coordinator for LCAT. He's done a lot of work on this presentation, and actually you'll see the whole research that he's done on this. But he comes to us with two big qualifications. Number one is he is a father of a 5-year-old daughter, who I commend him for that. Second of all, he has a very heroic past and has had a lot of different jobs, but one of the things that we really liked is that he was the chief deputy sheriff at Iowa County for many years, and also worked with the narcotics team there. So he brings a lot of background to this. But the main reason that we're here tonight is not to give you an update, but to kind of inform you of some new information that's come to our attention. And actually, Brian's done a lot of local research and found that it's actually in our community. What if I was to tell you that there is a legal drug that over the last 6 months, or the first 6 months in this year, caused a very high spike in hospital cases. And of those hospital cases, 41% of those were unintentional exposures. Unintentional exposures. So that's people who did not intend to use this drug that inadvertently got it and used it. Of that 41%, 77% were pediatric cases. Of those 77% pediatric cases, 18% ended up with the children being in ICU. The CDC actually last month put out a new statement issuing a warning on this. And as I said, it's something that's coming to our attention here in the community, and that is Delta 8, which is a synthetic marijuana made from hemp. It's legal and is available for purchase by adults. And this is the next thing that I want to say, and I'm going to turn it over to Brian, is that there are a lot of reasons and a lot of uses for synthetic marijuana. Some of them are medically approved, some of them aren't. In adults, we really have no issue with that. We're not taking a stand on that at this point. That's not for us to say yay or nay to. Our concern at LCAT is the fact that this is directly affecting children, and you're going to see why as soon as Brian gives his presentation. So I'll turn it over to Brian. Want me to hold anything, or are you good?
No, I'm good. Thanks. Good evening, everybody. As Stephen said, I'm Brian Bilsey. I'm the project coordinator with Lodi Community Action Team. Welcome, everybody, here tonight. I recently did an environmental scan on a product called Delta 8 THC. And this product is derived from the hemp plant, and it is legal in Wisconsin, like Stephen said. The product is legal for anyone in Wisconsin that's 18 or older. Some stores it's 21 and over. It just depends on the store. There's a lot of gray areas on this thing, and that's what's kind of concerning. This product has not been evaluated or approved by the Federal Drug Administration. So we're not sure what's in each individual package. What's on the package might not be what's inside the package. We don't know that because it hasn't been tested and it has not been evaluated. It's readily available in Columbia County, including here in Lodi. We're concerned about children in our community being exposed to it. Like Stephen said, some of those numbers are pretty scary. Some of the adverse events that could happen to a child is if they take this product is vomiting, hallucinations, trouble standing, and loss of consciousness. We're concerned about how this product is packaged and how it is directed at our children. And some of this packaging, as you'll see here in a minute, it's kind of confusing for kids. It looks like a package of candy. Our concern, as always with Lodi Community Action Team, is the safety of our kids. That's why I'm here tonight, and that's why this is such an important thing to talk about. Okay, where did I go to do this environmental scan? I went to vape shops, CBD stores, tobacco stores, gas stations, and convenience stores. I went to stores in Lodi, in Portage, in Poynette. Out of 12 stores that I visited, 5 of the stores had Delta 8 THC that I purchased. I wanted to go over my findings with you tonight, and this is what I know so far about Delta 8 THC. There's still a lot to learn about this product. But I want to educate people in the community tonight about this. So when I would go into a store that possibly had Delta 8 THC, my story was the same. I always said, I have trouble sleeping. I've tried CBD oil. The CBD oil didn't work for me. And I heard about this product called Delta 8, and I heard that it worked really well for sleep. And I got some really interesting feedback when I did that. And I talked to many of the different clerks. And I'm going to go over the products here now that I bought. So this first product is a liquid. It's a Delta 8 in a liquid. It's got a little smiley face on it. It's called Nectar Berry Syrup. And the gentleman told me, he said, if you take a capful of this 20 to 30 minutes before you go to sleep, you will be out like a rock for 8 or 9 hours. He said the best thing to mix this with is chocolate milk. It tastes really good with chocolate milk. Now, if you look at the packaging here, I mean, it's got a smiley face on it, a yellow cap. It just looks like, to me, something that a kid would have in their bedroom, in fact. And I bet some parents might look at this and just, go by it and not even, think much of it. The second thing I bought was marijuana, or not marijuana, it would actually be hemp, a loose bud that was sprayed with Delta 8 THC. It's in a cigar wrapper, and you can smoke it. It's kind of like your traditional marijuana joint. So that's another one that I bought. The next one is a vape pen. This is a disposable vape pen, and vaping is actually still quite prevalent here in Columbia County with our youth. And this one here is a Fruity Pebbles flavored vape pen. Again, folks, I truly believe this is aimed at our kids. Fruity Pebbles, I mean, come on. This is an example of some gummies that I bought. I bought these in Lodi at the vape store downtown. And if you notice here, they say strawberry moon babies. And it's just a bright, colorful package. It almost looks like a package you might see in a couple weeks in your kid's Halloween basket. It's kind of scary to me. I mean, it really, and if, as an adult, if you're looking at it going, this kind of looks like a candy wrapper, what's a kid going to think? That's scary to me. What's my 5-year-old at home going to think? This is another example of Delta 8 gummies. And these you can actually kind of see, if you laid out a gummy that's in this bag here on a table, and you put a gummy that you bought at the local candy store or in your grocery store in the candy aisle, you would never be able to tell the difference. So again, the problem with that is my 5-year-old going to know the difference? No, they're not. Now, I got to applaud this company. When I bought this the other day, it says, keep away from children, right on the front. And it says, not for sale to minors, 21 and up. Which again, I think that's great that they're warning people, but my 5-year-old can't read. So if this is laying on a counter somewhere and she sees this, she's not going to eat just one. She's going to maybe eat the whole bag. I don't know what she's going to do. So again, we're worried about kids being exposed to this stuff. And last but certainly not least, we have a caramel candy that I bought. It's in wax paper, and it looks just like a regular piece of candy you would see on the front counter at a store. It smells like caramel. It probably would taste really good. But the problem is with it is it's infused with Delta 8 THC. So when I bought this, the lady said to me, she said, okay, sir, if you're going to use this for sleep, she said, I need to know how much you weigh. So I said, okay. I said, I weigh around 230 pounds. And she said, okay. What you need to do is you need to cut this caramel into 6 pieces. You need to take 1/6 of it before going to bed. Take it 20 to 30 minutes before going to bed, and you will sleep incredible for 8 or 9 hours. It will knock you out. So my concern with this, folks, is if a 230-pound man can take 1/6 of this and be out for 8 or 9 hours, what's it going to do to a 15-year-old girl who weighs 110 pounds? She goes to a party. A young man goes to a party. They go to a friend's house, and they take one of these. How long are they going to sleep for? And what's going to happen to them when they're sleeping? That's a concern. The other concern, again, I keep going back to my 5-year-old. What about if my 5-year-old sees this on a counter somewhere? She's going to eat it. It's candy. It looks like candy. So, very, very concerning. So the stores, you're probably curious as to the stores that I bought the Delta 8 from. And I'll go through the stores. Again, this is the perfectly legal product. They're not doing anything wrong, and we're not here to say that they're doing anything wrong. So M&M Vapors of Lodi sold Delta 8. BP North Point in Poinet, it's a gas station. CBD American Shaman in Portage. Ideal Vapor in Portage. And Discount Smokes in Portage sold the Delta 8. So you're probably wondering, what is Lodi Community Action Team doing to educate folks about this? I've spoke to our coalition at our last meeting and gave the same presentation. What I want to do is I want to talk to Joe and Derek at the high school and middle school and go over some of this in greater detail to see what we can do. I would like to talk to the janitorial staff and discuss what some of this packaging looks like. They're going to be the folks that find the stuff in the garbage, and I want them to be aware of what it is. The other thing I want to do is each of you have a flyer up at your seat, and hopefully you've had a chance to maybe look at it. I want to put those in all the resource hubs at all the schools. Currently, we want to educate the adults and the parents about this. We want them just to be aware that it's in town, it's in Columbia County, and it could affect your kids. It could actually affect your pets too. The FDA also warned about pets getting into this and pets getting very sick. So that's all I have for you tonight. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. And if I could get this mask from slipping down my nose all the time, but
Must have been very thorough. There, no questions. The one thing I will say is that we did review the district's policies, and we believe that the policies already cover this. We already talked about synthetic marijuana, which this is a synthetic, so it is covered. We don't feel at this point that you need to do anything to update the policies and procedures for that, but we will keep on top of that as well. So, yes. Sure. Gotta pull them up here. So 41% of the exposures that were reported were unintentional exposures. 77% of those 41%, which gets confusing, were pediatric cases, and 18% of the 77% were resulted in an ICU. Yes, so those are in a 4-month period, 660 case spike is what they said. 660 case spike, so over the normal. And I don't know what the normal is. Yeah, I mean, when you look at it this way, I think the concern and the reason why the CDC put this out was because they're seeing an abnormal spike in this. So there is an uptick. So I don't know that it's because of the amount of cases. The other thing that we should reassure people of is that that with most synthetic marijuanas, there is very rare chance of death. So we're not talking about serious issues here. Always with medications, what happens to your body can cause other things to fail, but it's not directly attributed to the marijuana or the THC. Okay? All right. Thank you.
thank you very much.
While the board members are seating down, I'll go into public input. So that's next on the agenda. Purpose of the citizen input agenda item is to provide comments on any agenda item or to publicly address the Board of Education on items that pertain to school business. The amount of time allotted to each speaker will generally not exceed 5 minutes. We have a clock up above us per person to allow all people who wish to speak an opportunity to be heard. However, the president may modify the time limits at his or her discretion. If a speaker has questions for the board, they'll be duly noted, and responses will be provided in an appropriate manner. But the board will not respond to individual questions or individual comments as part of the public agenda item. Input agenda item. As a reminder, the board cannot take action on any item that is brought forth during the public input session or on any item that was not posted on the meeting agenda. Citizen input is an important part of the board meeting agenda, and the board appreciates hearing from the community on issues concerning them and their school district. And that's, because we're not online, things are a little different tonight. So there's 4 people who have pre-registered to give public input tonight. And the first one is Brad Graff, if you want to take a microphone and say what you want to say. Is Brad here? Okay, Monica Simpson.
Linnick and Mr. Pertzborn alerted parents to the TikTok challenges. I love how my one son's teacher texted a photo of his work in science. Mrs. Thorpe gave my second grader a hug after a rough week. And Mrs. Whip talked to our class as soon as a bad name was called out on the playground. I really love our teachers. And Vince called me after the last meeting to tell me what was available on digital citizenship. The school spirit is amazing and rare here in Lodi. It's not perfect, kids get teased, homework is hard, but student cheering sections, the variety of activities, teachers that reach out, programs where young kids are helped by older kids, that is not everywhere. Lodi schools are not just your average schools. But that is also why the equity initiatives are being questioned. Many larger districts have implemented these initiatives, and they did not have this to lose. They've had them in place for years, and they are divisive at best. They shut out conservative students and teachers at worst. Please do not water down education or Lodi pride by furthering them. Please listen to parents who have seen them work not so well. If you're going to discuss all public school students, how about your Christian families? There's nothing in these programs for them. Maybe they're not a minority, but they're not allowed to bring faith into the public schools, and we accept that. But if you're bringing these programs in to make students of all races and identities feel included, you need to mirror our lives as well. Please stop spending tax dollars on PR, consultants, training materials, and otherwise to implement the equity initiatives. Yes, mental health data you chose indicates more is needed, but more is needed everywhere. We are raising digital natives. The data on smartphone use is so much stronger if we're going to talk about impacts to mental health. This pandemic has affected everyone's mental health drastically. I do think you should redo your survey in light of that and what we now know about social media and teenagers. Virtual school threw all of our children deeper into that World Wide Web, regardless of race, gender, ability, and religion. There is a small piece in middle school and high school, but it doesn't get the attention that equity does. Want to serve all your students? Put the equity money towards the activities that build unity and Lodi pride. Athletics, theater, math club, whatever is here, or create a club that the non-joiners would like. Get a consultant to teach students, teachers, and families how to unplug better and lace that through the curriculum instead of critical race theory. I know I hear, well, we can only do so much if parents don't regulate that. But that's the same with equity. Why are you throwing these things at our kids if you can only do so much? It seems like cherry picking. Nationwide, it's come to my attention that some school boards don't like dissent or feel unsafe. And I do pray and hope that you guys don't feel that way. We do appreciate and thank you for listening. You guys, schools have our kids 8 hours a day, and parents, it's our job to pay attention. I hope they don't feel uncomfortable if we are paying attention now. So I guess my thing is, there's a PR program, you pay consultants, and join politically motivated groups prior to announcing that. There's books that are politically promoted, and people feel like they're being played. There's a referendum coming up. I have always voted to increase taxes if it benefits our public schools, but your consultants' trainings and training materials are not free, and they're not privately funded. If you connected to the roof that needs to be repaired on this building, you might face a hard reality. A lot of people will be doing a lot of thinking on that. So I love the school. I'm so happy we moved here. Thank you to everyone who supports my children, and please consider moving the equity funding to things that unify us. Thank you.
Thank you. Jess, Jopke, Joke. No Jess? Jack Tetzel. Jack here?
Jack Tatzel, Lodi School District. I'm also going to talk about equity program. First, according to Wisconsin Department of Public Instruction, over half the Lodi students are below grade level in language arts and math. Now, I've been told that the DPI equation used in this calculation is complex and that we're not really doing quite that bad. However, DPI made a complex calculation. You divide the number of students testing below grade level by the number of students, and that's going to give you the percentage that are below grade level. Apparently, DPI prefers to use some kind of an exotic formula instead, and I have to ask why. Why not just give us accurate numbers and be done with it? To me, it's just another example of deception and distortion, distorted language that's used in Wisconsin public education today. Another example of deception that I feel is the equity program that our administration slipped in while parents were dealing with COVID last year. We're told the program is to give students what they need to learn, but all the equity program training is either of a racist nature or at best extremely biased. Just as our previous speaker said, 2 months ago, I highlighted the Dane County Equity Consortium Social Justice Mission Statement and the academically bereft and socially divisive book that was used for the book study. I didn't do that. Tonight I want to talk about another aspect of the training activity for the so-called equity program. This one is called responsive teaching training, or culturally responsive teaching training. I'm not sure why we didn't use it academically responsive training, but it's culturally. Half the kids are below grade level, and we're doing culturally responsive training. Parents want their children to learn how to read and do math. We're not going to lose sight of this. I know there's some new programs out there. They've got good names, fancy names, but the question always comes down to how are they implemented? What are they really? You get a nice name like equity, and it gets twisted around into something that's really divisive and actually racist. The American higher education establishment is creating these programs, and they're intent on instilling their ideology and cultural values to our children. Is our school district their implementation tool? Shouldn't be. These university sociology and education departments that want to indoctrinate our children with their values are the same institutions that claim a strong work ethic is being white and is white privilege. They haven't just said it once, they promote it, they're proud of it. That claim that a strong work ethic is whiteness is an insult to my black coworkers. It is also an insult to my Asian friends, Hispanic coworkers. It's social, it's racist, it's divisive, and it's simply not true. They also claim mathematics is whiteness because mathematics was mostly developed by white Europeans. However, some very brilliant black scientists used equations to help send Neil Armstrong to the moon. Saying that a strong work ethic and mathematics are negative aspects of white culture is absurd. But remember, our district is using culturally responsive teaching. Are we teaching that hard work, math, science are not part of black culture? I hope not. But with all the deception and distorted language that's used in education today, I don't know. We look to our school board to make sure our kids learn reading, math, science, and we look to them to operate in the best interests of our kids. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who wanted to speak who's here, since we don't have those other people here? Okay, seeing no one jumping up, we'll move on. We used to do everything by paper, and now we're going back to paper. So, the next thing is the consent agenda items. Items in this section will be adopted as a group unless a board member requests a specific item to be removed from consent agenda and addressed separately. We have the minutes from the September 13th, 2021 Board of Education regular meeting. We have a couple of fundraiser requests for football cheerleading, tailgate baskets, cheerleading merchandise, and the Powder Puff fundraiser through the senior class. Oh, I missed. Oh, yeah, vouchers. It's right at the end of the page there. So we also have vouchers, thank you. They're not listed on here, so we don't have any fundraiser reports. We have no field trip requests. We do have committee recommendations for approval, the substitute administrative assistant pay, and the hiring of four long-term substitutes. Under other, we have Start, College Now, and Early College Credits. I believe there was half a dozen of those. We have under resignations and retirement, elementary school OSC administrative assistant, and that's under retirement. And then under resignations, we have girls assistant basketball coach, 4K through 12 social studies chair, and elementary school OSC LMC assistant. Under co-curricular, we have middle school Ice Age Trail hiking assistant advisor, head middle school wrestling coach, an esports advisor, a first-year mentor, and a volunteer middle school wrestling coach. There are 5 crew wage increases under community program crew. Under regular staff, we have a high school counselor, OSC educational assistant, a van driver, mail delivery food service, an increase in hours for health assistant, COVID-19 contact tracer, a 1-year position, primary school long-term permanent substitute, first semester 2 days a week, primary school long-term permanent sub, first semester 3 days a week, elementary school OSC long-term permanent substitute, first semester, 8th grade social studies teacher, middle school special education assistant. Under personnel other, we have leave requests and leave without pay requests.
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented with the approval of the resignation of primary school educational assistant Kathy Storoff and approval of the long-term substitute OSC special education teacher Renee Sacco.
I second the motion.
Motion by Angie and a second by Terry. Any further discussion on the consent agenda? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Is anyone opposed? Passes 6-0. Our buyer is not in attendance tonight. Now we're on to the regular agenda. First one on there is COVID mitigation discussion.
Yeah, so that is the first on the agenda is the district put together a medical advisory committee to give a recommendation, which the board took last month, adopted last month for COVID mitigation strategies. The medical advisory committee again met on the 5th of October. They reviewed the cases that we have, our current COVID cases that we've had. We went in closed session, talked about some of the real specifics with our school nurse. Then we came out and talked about they reviewed district level cases, county level cases, and the state level cases. One of the things on the DHS website, you can go into the school district of Lodi and drill down to how many cases per 100,000 we have within our school boundaries and compare it to other districts around. So we looked at all those different things. And the committee, as you see in their recommendation, put forth that they recommend that we continue with the same mitigation strategies we have right now. The reason being, the state of Wisconsin continues to have high transmission rate. Columbia County continues to have high transmission rate. Transmission rate within our district boundaries is high, but our COVID transmission within the buildings right now is low, and our mitigation efforts in place are keeping students in person in learning environments. So they would recommend that we would stay with what we are doing right now. And then there is also a question about quarantines and why there's difference between vaccinated and unvaccinated people. So there's a
So just to go further into that, people have asked us specific questions on the recommendations. And so Vince takes those and takes them to the medical advisory board and asks the medical people what their recommendations are on these questions. And so this is one of the questions that came up.
Yeah, this is the one I probably got the most questions about. So I asked them, and the information that again is in the memo is they shared the rate of infection for unvaccinated people is higher than that of vaccinated people. The most recent Department of Health Human Services cases show there are 4 times higher COVID cases in unvaccinated versus vaccinated. And interesting enough, the week of this was written, the 2 weeks prior to that in Dane County, the highest rate of transmission was between kids age of 12 to 15 who were unvaccinated. The lowest rate of transmission in Dane County were kids 12 to 15 who were vaccinated. They were 20 times more likely to have COVID if they were unvaccinated. And they said they're still, they know people can still get COVID if they're vaccinated. They don't hold it as long. That's why they still recommend masking. They're still recommending testing and those types of things. But that is why there's the difference between those 2 recommendations.
Okay.
So I'm confused. Are we not quarantining vaccinated children?
We don't, no. That's in the recommendation that was made last time was if you are vaccinated and are a close contact, you're not quarantined. You're asked to test. Wear a mask, and we do masking all the time, but you should wear a mask everywhere you go, and then test 3 to 5 days after that close contact. So we don't quarantine kids who are vaccinated or staff who are vaccinated.
I guess I missed that.
Yep. And just to let you know where our cases are, you can always look on our online. We have a COVID dashboard. The board decided last year, we sent out notifications every time we had a COVID case. Some people really liked that. Some people really hated that. The board decided that we would just put the dashboard together and just contact close contact. So if we look at our case numbers, the first week of school we had 5 cases. The week of September 6th through September 12th we had 1 case. The week of September 13th to September 19th we had 17 cases, which is kind of we expected after Labor Day weekend and all the activities that happened there. Cases went down September 20th, 26th, we were down to 2 cases. 3 cases 2 weeks ago. Last week we had 10 cases, and we're starting to see it pick up a little bit. Our school nurse warned me a week ago, like, I think we're getting another bump. And it's concerning with homecoming coming this week, all the different activities as well. But we're not seeing a lot of transmission in school, and we're being able to keep kids in school. And we're working really hard on making sure our mitigation in place so there aren't many close contacts at school. We do have a positive case. Typically those close contacts happen at lunch and those type of things when kids are in mask.
Okay, so then there's no change to the recommendation, so let's keep going forward with it. Did anybody have any other comments on that? Okay, we'll move on to 802, Community Survey, which the board members have in front of them.
Yeah, so we've been working with school perceptions, looking at, as was mentioned earlier, that we will be looking at a referendum in April. So we have been working with school perceptions to put together a community survey to gather input to help the board make decisions by December. So the community survey has come in front of the board, the Facility Finance Committee 3 different times for input. And this is the final draft of that community survey. It's an 8-page survey. And if the board approves this survey tonight, it will then go to the printer and it will be sent out. There's a timeline also that was shared, where we'll send it to the printer. It'll be sent out to staff in late October. It should land in mailboxes the week of November 3rd, and people are encouraged to do it online. It's cheaper for the district. So when they get the survey, they can jump online. They'll have a code to use, or if they would rather do it in paper, they can do it in paper and send it back, and it goes to school perceptions. It doesn't come back to the district office. So it's a third party who will collect that data, and the survey deadline will be November 22nd. That gives school perceptions time to bring that information back to the committee, or I'm sorry, the board, sorry, and in December to share the findings that the input that they've gotten from the community.
So according to this timeline, if we get this information back in December 13th, we need to approve the referendum stuff by January meeting, so we're going to have a special meeting in there somewhere.
Probably.
To go over this.
Yep.
It'll probably be the beginning of January.
Yeah, because we have to have a referendum, the language, I would say probably towards the end of December rather than early January, because then you don't have to go to legal counsel. If the board decides to go to referendum, they will have to go to legal counsel to draft that question.
Yeah.
So it's a legal question, and then come back at our normal January meeting and have the final approval of that question be on the board agenda.
So finance and facility has seen this many times and gone over this many times. The rest of the board members have not. Administration has seen this many times and gone over this many times, and there's been a lot of options and a lot of feedback, both directions, on trying to make this what it is, and this is what it came out to be. To me, this seems like the clearest one I've seen so far.
Yeah, and for those who don't have it in front of them, obviously, it's on board docs and our internet's down, so, but it shows where our mill rate is now, where the mill rate would be if nothing happens and there's no referendum passed, if we pass a referendum, $3.85 million referendum, where that mill rate would go to. If we look at doing some maintenance, a question there, and keep that mill rate steady at 11.11, what that would look like, and then some questions about, we want to look at does the community want us to start looking at the green space, some of the buildings, to put areas around and do some future planning. Again, and this all links right back into the strategic plan that we did last year, looking at operational excellence. So we're looking at budget forecasting, looking at our maintenance of our buildings. That's in our operational excellence piece as well, and then looking at the green space, our future. Again, that's in that same area. Our community set a priority of not only just looking at the now, but looking at future, what we need to have in the future for this district. So we're just responding again to what our community told us to do. And this survey, again, will give us more information on that.
But it seems to hit all of those parts and ask people their feelings on those questions in detail so that we can hear that back from them.
And again, it'd just be informational for the board.
Right.
More information for you to help you make the best decisions.
Yes. Does anybody have any questions on this, especially those of you seeing it for the first time? I mean, you saw it in your board docs and read through it there. Now it's printed out for you.
So I know board docs, typically I give you a recommended motion.
Right.
In board docs.
Right.
So the recommended motion would be to move to approve the community survey and timeline as presented.
I move to approve the community survey and timeline as presented.
I'll second.
Motion by Angie and a second by Julie. Is there any further discussion?
That's great. I like that there's space for comments, questions, suggestions in each section, and hopefully people take advantage of that.
And again, as I said earlier, if you could see all the different iterations of this and how it's changed over time, it's just, this is really clean and clear. And
I think it is clear, you know,
Yeah.
as a person who hasn't read it before.
Okay,
and
you didn't have any
understand it.
trouble with
I
it?
didn't have, well, and also, I mean, even just the term, like, the clarification of like, if I have property, you know, this much property, what exactly is that impact on my tax? Which is, you know.
Well, and the other question, if people don't want to pass a referendum,
Right.
what do they want us to reduce, right? Because, you know, that's a very difficult conversation, a really difficult discussion, so looking for input on that as well. So if that's another piece of input, that would be great for the board to have from our community.
Okay, no other discussion? So all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Passes 6-0. Next, we have defeasance.
Mr. Richter, do you want to speak to this, please? As Brent Richter comes up, one of the things that we have tried to do in this district over the last plan has been really to try to have level up our mill rate and kind of keep that steady. So property taxes aren't bouncing up and down. The people are thrilled when they bounce down, but then they're not so thrilled next year when they bounce up. So the board here has done the plan has always been to try to keep that as steady as possible. And Brent's going to speak to that a little bit. You can use the microphone.
Yes. So I want to make sure I understand. Do you have access to the memo that I?
We just have your memo is all we have.
Okay. And the finance committee, I think, has a pretty good handle too, so they can on this too, so they can help where I may be missing in parts of my explanation. Defeasance, as a whole, what is it? It is over levying your debt service levy. Each year we have about a $1.5 to $1.6 million debt service payment. The law says that you can levy the whole debt service. I have been when I found this out a couple of years back, I've been making fun of this because I know that would be the end of a lot of people's jobs if we levied $20 million in 1 year. But with that said, you have the ability to over levy your annual debt service payment should you choose so. And the way that boards use this is if they have a flat levy, and we do at 11.13, we've had that for about 4 years now, and if we didn't over levy our debt service, it would be less than 11.13. So if you use defeasance and you over levy your debt service and move your tax rate up to, or your mill rate up to 11.13, that additional money goes into an escrow account, just like in your home finances. That builds interest. That interest is used to pay down future interest and principal on that debt service. We have over levied about $2.5 million in the last 3 years, and that's shaved $1.15 million off of that debt. So we actually have saved quite a bit of money, and we've shaved a whole year off of our 20-year payment on our debt service. So it's pretty effective. And the board has used this as a strategy to maintain a level tax rate. That's also a fairly effective strategy that boards across the country use because taxpayers are pretty cool with a level taxation. Spikes are not as much appreciated, I don't think.
And the debt you're referring to is on the primary school.
The debt is on, without making that a real, correct, yep.
Any questions for Brent?
So the Facility and Finance Committee has gone over this and
Many times.
approved this and recommended it to the full board for approval. And there is a proposed motion on the bottom of Brent's memo.
Yeah,
Yes.
I'd be willing to propose a motion. I move the 2021 debt service levy to include a defeasance amount which allows the total mill rate to be established at $11.11 per mills.
Motion by Bill and
I second it.
second by Terry. Is there any further discussion?
I
Any
just-
questions?
Yeah, I have a question. I'm still trying to wrap my brain around
It's a
this.
very tough subject, and
Very
it took
complex.
all of us many months, years to get a hold of it. So, yes,
Yeah, it's super complex.
Yes.
And I'm thinking I'm starting to grasp it. So we do have the final say in voting this in, correct? But the people are going to speak to it because it's affecting their taxes. But then with the referendum, so if we push it to the 1111,
right.
that doesn't change anything in here. If we lower it, then essentially we're asking for, what looks like we're asking for more money in the
Right.
referendum?
Right, so it's a little weirder than that even. So it's not like there's this hard number ever, because there's so many variables. And so when the variables all get added up and there's an official number that's calculated, I don't think we know that until the very last second, right?
We won't know that till after October 15th, when we have one other variable certified, that's the state aid for our district.
So the current levy could be 11 right now, and we don't know it. It could be 11.9, it could be 10.96. We have no idea where it's going to be until the last second. And then what this authorization does for Brent is says, whatever it is, 9.6, 11.10, whatever it is, he gets to move it to 11.11. That's what this says. And so whatever that difference is, goes into the escrow account and gets applied toward paying off the primary school.
Okay.
So-
And if we don't do this, then what you're saying with it bounces too much.
It goes up and down.
It goes up and down.
Yeah. And again, we have no control over where it goes up and down. When those numbers finally come in, there's some number, and then this authorization says, whatever that number is, move it to 11.11. If it's above 11.11, we can't do anything. Right? But we expect it will be under 11.11. Do you have any kind of estimate, or is it just too variable?
Yeah, it was just under 9
Under
mils.
9.
Yeah. Be a function of our property value has escalated substantially this year.
Yes.
And so that dropped our mill rate down considerably.
So the town of Lodi went through and reassessed all the property values, and that went way up.
So we're in the process of that. We haven't done that yet. That's why we're trying to figure out.
We've done that, and it's applied in December at the tax thing.
Okay.
So,
So the last question that I have, and maybe, because I know we talked about this so long today, I'm
We
sorry.
did, yeah.
It just seems to me, like if we went to referendum, did we go to referendum for the primary school? Is that where, we went to that, we asked for money for that in referendum. But now we're taxing people again for the defeasance, essentially asking them for more money to save the money on the debt.
Yeah, that's what's happening, is we are, paying down that debt, we're bringing in more money, and that's the simple part, because that's probably something that you could do in your own personal finances, is bringing in more money, investing it in an escrow account. And that escrow account is earning interest. That's being applied to future interest payments. So that's the beauty of it, and a lot of schools are using it.
But like you said, we're also knocking that debt off. Like you said, we saved a year?
Yep, saved a year, yep.
So we're projected to do that again by doing that?
Yeah, this is going to be a substantial draw. I mean, this will be probably closer to $2.5 to $3 million, I would say. And so I don't have all the details on how much this would earn, but I'm going to tell you that it's about what we've done as a total. So theoretically, we could be knocking another year off and saving another $1.15 million on the life of that debt, theoretically.
Theoretically. So that, best case scenario,
Yeah.
kind of, okay. 'Cause that's just where it's sounding like it will hopefully balance out. We're asking for more, but it's going to balance out in the longevity, long term. Okay. Thank
okay.
you.
It's very confusing stuff. All
To say the
school
least.
financing in general, when you put all that stuff together, is very hard to navigate. And Brent does a wonderful job.
But
But
it's not just
difficult.
Brent, like it's the
Yeah.
Baird, it's
Yep.
It's a.
It's those guys, this is not my,
Brendan, just make it all.
Right.
there are,
So-
yeah, our finance advisors are the ones that brought this to us. Yeah, this is not in my world, it's,
And calculate all that stuff out for us.
Thank you.
No, sure.
Right, does somebody just want to, I mean, the R.W. Baird is our financial consulting group that we use. So they're our advisor in all of these matters.
Yes.
So, just so that that's clear.
And they advise all school districts. They have many different school districts they advise. And keep track of all this stuff for them. Any other comments, questions? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Is anyone opposed? Passes 6-0. Strategic plan update.
Yeah, so as I shared at the last meeting, we had Ms. Schrader, Dr. Carls, and Mr. Kurtzborn, let's give a presentation, presented on our strategic plan. Oh, and Brent, he's just up here. Presented on our strategic plan and some of the steps we're taking, and reference maybe some of the things that were talked about a little earlier in public input, like looking at where we are, where areas that we are weak at. We talked about academics and things we're doing. So as I wanted to make sure that the board was updated, I put together a brief video. It just kind of, again, reminding people the strategic planning process, how that happened, but then also the next steps we're taking, right? Because that was always one of the concerns when you go through a strategic planning process, that this document's just going to sit on a shelf somewhere, right? Because I heard that even from our best committee, like, I'm worried what's going to happen. So I shared that we have been meeting, right? We put together the strategy map. We are really leveraging 3 of those pillars, and we are going to cascade them down, which means we are going to take those strategies and work with our buildings and really pinpoint some of those areas, like how can we make sure that we have high confidence strategies in these areas that we can make sure we're moving the district forward in the priority areas that our community has set for us. That doesn't mean we're not talking about the other 2 areas. For example, in communication and workforce, we're still talking about those, but we're not going to cascade those down as of right now. So just an overview. I gave the board, and it's in your packet as well, just a copy of our strategy map that we're working on, which our district scorecard will be based on. And either in November or December, we will be coming back to the board with a building level scorecard. And either we will have a presentation on that, or we may even do something what's called like a gallery walk, where we just take a moment and have the building principals like around a room and have them walk through their different scorecards and have the board be able to walk through that and ask questions and do those types of things. So again, it's just a reminder to the community and to the board that we are continuing to work on this. And I guess I open up the questions if there's any questions that board members have regarding the video or any other part of that process.
I watched your video again this morning, and I thought it was really good. It went right through, it explained everything in detail, and I thought it was good.
And one of the pieces of feedback I got from you, Adam, was also, and maybe it's a possibility of breaking that back up into 2 different videos in the future, like have a short video that just talks about the history, like how this happened, and then a little bit more, because one of the things that I'm sure if you watched it, I'm a little rushed because I also don't want it to be a 10-minute video, right? But I also don't want to lose the content that's in there as well. And so, again, maybe as we move forward, we'll go back and add that. So that video is also on our website. That's on the strategic planning website, right? So it's an update, so people want to go back and look at that. I sent that out to our Vision Element study team, who are part of this process, and said, just a heads up, this is getting shared with the board and the community. Please let me know if you have any questions. I just want to let you know we are moving forward on the work that you did. So again, just want to make sure that people know that we are taking those necessary steps to move forward in the areas the community asked us to move forward in.
Yep, good. Okay, any other discussion? Substitute teacher daily rate.
Yeah, so we took this to the Facility and Finance Committee. We have been struggling, just like everybody else, to find substitutes. And it's not, again, not just a Lodi thing, it's all over in education. As we see fewer and fewer people going into education. It used to be kind of a rite of passage. Many new teachers, their first year out of college was they would sub for a year or two and then get their first job. Not happening much anymore because there's openings. So, and then with COVID, there are some of our subs in the other end who have retired. A lot of people, times we have people come back. Several of those people who sometimes we can call in the sub have decided with COVID right now, they're not coming into the building. So we've been struggling to get substitutes. And so we looked at what the area rate was and just made the recommendation that we would bump our sub rate up an additional $10, just to hope that we could get, might just get somebody to come our way a little further. And it cost the district about approximately $10,000 to $11,000. One of the things we're really struggling with right now is like our building principals are having to sub, right? So it's hard to work on some of the things, even like we brought up in public comment. It's hard to work on those things when we have building principals not working with teachers, they're working in classrooms with students. And so, I just recommend that we move our sub rate from $120 to $130 per day.
I move to increase the substitute teacher pay rate from $120 to $130 per day.
I second it.
Motion by Angie and a second by Terry. Is there any further discussion?
The only question that I have on this is, do we publish this anywhere?
Yes.
Once we approve it, do we,
Yes.
we put it out and we let all the surrounding communities know?
Yeah, yes to that, and also the subs find it and find it right away, yes.
We'll let them know.
Perfect.
The only thing I would ask is that amend that motion to start October 16th.
I'll amend my initial motion.
Terry, you okay?
Yep.
Okay. And then, in addition to that, as long as we're discussing substitutes, we just hired 2 in consent agenda.
Yes, so we have, the board authorized us to hire 4 permanent subs
4.
at least through January. We've hired 2, actually 3.
3.
2 are going to share a position
Okay.
at the primary school, and then another one at the elementary school, just so we have those people on staff. Because it's been a rare day that I don't get an email that says we are short teachers somewhere, or educational assistants are, and our staff has been phenomenal in covering.
Right.
But they're also getting exhausted, right?
Yes.
It takes every moment of their time, and so whatever doesn't get done during the day has to be done at night. And again, we can all do that for a while, but after a while, it wears a little thin, right? And so I really appreciate how our administrative staff and other staff in the buildings have been stepping up to do that.
So
Okay.
important for students and staff
It is.
to retain and staff and have good teaching for the students to have the subs that are needed for those inevitable moments. So
Could you say that again, Angie?
Oh, sorry. Just for the students need great teaching no matter what, if their teacher's gone, and the teachers, the educational staff, their quality of life and their potential for being retained within the profession is very much dependent on quality subs.
That's what's going to be nice about having a permanent sub, sort of,
Will
because
help.
they're going to get that same relationship going.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Passes 6-0.
So our next agenda item is daily internal teacher sub rate. Very same thing, right? We're asking our teachers to step up and give up their preps to sub. And again, we're just looking to bump this from $20 to $23 per hour when they give up their prep. And again, it's not a lot of money. It's just, again, it's a token of our appreciation of all the effort they're doing. It aligns more versus a supervision, where $20 an hour is like homecoming dance. So anybody here who wants to chaperone the homecoming dance this weekend, $20 an hour. Anybody in the crowd wants to chaperone, just talk to Mr. Johnlick, $20 an hour. We're paying our teachers at school, right, to sub in a chemistry class, we're paying them the same rate we're people who are chaperoning dance. So it just bumps it up to our curriculum rate. So it's still tied to another rate, in our school. So I would recommend that we just bump that up, again, starting October 16th.
I move to increase the internal teaching staff substitute pay rate from $20 to $23 an hour, effective
October 16th.
October 16th.
I'll second.
Motion by Angie and a second by Christie. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Passes 6-0. Crew rental agreement.
So yeah, when we work with crew, we treat them kind of like we do any other outside organization. So we have a contract here for crew rental for the next 2 school years. There's no major changes to that, correct? It's just renewing that same contract that we've had.
Yep. Does anybody have any questions on the contract?
No.
Is that a yes?
I said no.
Oh, okay.
No questions.
We need a motion?
Yes, I need a motion.
Make a motion to accept the contract for 22-23 Lodi crew as presented.
And I'll second it.
Motion by Angie and a second by Terry. Is there any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Passes 6-0. Policy first readings. We have Policy 410, Title 9, Sexual Harassment Prohibited Against Students and Other applicable? I'm sorry. Policy 510, Title 9, Sexual Harassment Prohibited Against Employees. And the only changes in both of these are just the Title 9 coordinator name.
Yeah, so in both of these, we have to name the specific person. And since we have a new director of student services, as we were going through these, this is the one we missed, so we just had to update the names in those.
So that should be fairly easy for everybody. We move on to policy 810, policy second readings. We have policy 341.2, program for students with disabilities, and policy 153, board self-evaluation instrument.
Again, both of these were approved by the policy committee, unanimously to bring to the board. They went through a first read, and I would recommend approval of both of them.
I'll make a motion to approve policy 3.412, program for students with disabilities, and policy 153, board self-evaluation instrument.
I'll second.
Motion by myself and a second by Julie. Is there any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Is anyone opposed? Passes 6-0. There are no gifts and donations. Communications. Lodi Elementary OSC School. And we do have all of the reports. We've read all the reports. Thank you. There was a very large increase in pictures this month. It was amazing. Thank you.
I'm gonna have to turn that on.
It's just that
The mute
it's a good chance to show the board what's going on in the schools when you give us pictures.
Yes.
So,
And we love the pictures.
we love the pictures and Mike's video.
Sorry, you guys. Give me 1 second. All right, so you got to see my report, right? Is that what you said?
Yes.
You have access? Okay, perfect. So I won't spend a ton of time, but a couple highlights are the community values that we implemented during the course of last year to get at the heart and soul of our school. They have been great because, as you saw from the pictures with the bus belonging challenge, so just like every other position in our district, bus drivers have been hard to come by, but different, or what we wanted to do, not only because bus drivers are hard to come by, is bus drivers are often a group that feels left out of our school. So kids get on the bus, they treat it like it's not school sometimes, some kids. They treat the staff like they're not school staff. Any school staff walk on, it looks completely different. So we just did a 2-week bus belonging challenge where each day I would get on the bus, talk about specifically the values of support, belonging, and kindness, and make sure that the kids were demonstrating that for the bus drivers. Saw a change in behavior. Bus drivers were loving it. You saw pictures of notes. You saw just all kinds of positive things. And what I liked is I've been a principal for a little while, and this is the most that I've seen the bus drivers feel connected as well. And we know that when you feel connected as adults or as kids, you feel more valued in your role, you feel more belonging, which is one of the things we're working at, but it's just been great. And so now today we started and shifted it to our lunchroom. So we're doing, one of our fifth graders came up with lunchroom longing for belonging as the title. And so that's what we do. So we each lunch period, we identify one classroom that has done the best job of demonstrating those values. So that's the values. You got to read a little bit about it. We'll continue to do that. We'll come back to the bus periodically. We'll do other challenges. In fact, the next one that we'll work on then is the playground, because it's just identifying some of our hotspots for where behaviors can occur and making sure that the adults feel supported. We finished our assessment window. Our iReady is done, and our F&P, which is that individual reading assessment, is just wrapping up. We often get subs for that time, and with the lack of subs, it stretched it out longer. And then we've been on a safety drill kick like crazy because it's the beginning of the year, and we also have a new evacuation site. So for those who maybe didn't know this, but our old evacuation site was Blessed Trinity right behind school, and when we had a gas leak, that is way too close to be an evacuation site. So we now have a site further away. So we were able to pull that off for the first time. Had police there as well, so we got their feedback so that if we needed to ever do a reunification from there, we had their perspective as well. And that's about it. Questions for me? Sweet. Thank you, Mr. Jelnick, for helping me turn the microphone on.
Thank you. Lodi Middle School.
All right. Is this on? Mm-hmm. Can you guys hear me okay? So we have finished up our iReady diagnostic as well, and our next step in that process is going to be to put together some teams and to really look at our data. Specifically, we'll look at data at a grade level for reading and math, and then we will look at what students need support and try to design a system to support those students to bring them up to grade level as best we can. Like the elementary school, we are also going through a lot of safety drills. We've had 3 fire drills this year. The Lodi Fire Department was out. Thank you to them to observe our drill last Friday. We're also going into our ALICE protocol and going through those procedures with our students in the next coming weeks. We also had an Orange Out, thanks to Michelle Howe for organizing an Orange Out. So the Orange Out is to raise awareness to hunger, and the Lodi Sausage Company donates 50 cents to Reach Out Lodi for every student that wears orange that day. So we were able to raise $124 that day for that cause. It was fun. We saw a lot of orange, a lot of Reese's shirts, and it was just a good day for all of our students. Last month, the 6th grade did a trip to Devil's Lake, which was amazing to see the students out, and 6th graders riding across Devil's Lake in a canoe is something that is a very interesting sight. There are, as you look at a dozen canoes in the water, there's usually 2 to 3 that are tipped over at a time. They were all safe, but it was really fun to watch and fun to see the kids having fun. And the 6th grade really puts that on to really try to not only welcome them to the middle school, but also to bring together the elementary school and OSC and try to break down some barriers early in the year to bring those students together, which I think is a great way to start the year for those students. And in 7th grade language arts, they celebrate Patriots Day and write letters and interview their parents about 9/11. And thanks to Miss Rendler and to Miss Raceback for organizing that. And I don't remember if I had this on, if I'm missing a page here, but the 8th grade also did a field trip. They went to the American Players Theater and had a great time down there.
Thank you. High school. Way ahead of me.
All right, thanks, Adam. First of all, if I can get this to come up. I do want to start with a recognition. You probably saw it in my board report. And that is, I received an email actually from Lakeside Lutheran's athletic director about Dave Poles and his staff. And this is not the first time I've heard this. One of the reasons why when I came to Lodi and I wanted to coach football in Lodi was because of Dave Poles and his staff. I'm just going to read this quick thing, a quick part of this email. It says, "The spotlight is always on the games and score, but a powerful positive message was delivered by a simple act done after the lights were off. Thank you, Coach Poles, for teaching and modeling character and behavior that will last a lifetime and for using athletics to teach more than just winning. Your actions speak volumes. and put into practice education-based athletics. The young men under your direction and the school district of Lodi are blessed to have you. So when this custodian went into the locker room at Lakeside Lutheran High School, after a very messy football game on the field, it was entirely cleaned up. And that person just didn't see that happen very often. It did not surprise me at all. So it's a testament to Dave, his leadership, his coaching staff, and of course, players. So we always appreciate that. I did want to quickly thank parents Jesse and Bo Lane and Nicole Noel for providing some picnic tables for outside dining during lunchtime. We divided our lunches into 3 lunches. We've been able to spread kids out more, and it's just a lot safer. So hopefully this autumn weather will continue to be somewhat warm so kids can continue to go outside. So thank you, Jesse, Bo, and Nicole. I've got lots of information about homecoming there, and I did talk about this a little bit last time, but just a reminder to everybody that the parade route is different. We are starting on Grand and Sauk, and we'll be finishing at the high school. It's a lot safer for our students. The city of Lodi loves it because, again, we are not having to direct traffic on 2 major county roads, which makes sense for the city. And again, the Powder Puff fundraiser, which is Wednesday, which is a new event, and we're going to be raising money for Reach Out Lodi and LACE this Wednesday night from 7 to 9. If anybody would like to chaperone, feel free to stop by. Also, we do have a new high school counselor, and that is Ann Kirschbaum, and she was busy right away day one. So lots of students are able to go and talk to her when necessary. She had a schedule, a big plan of things to do on that day one, and she had to set it aside because she probably had about 10 to 15 students that just wanted to talk to her. So we're really glad that she's here. I wanted to mention 2 students, Ella Poles and Kyle Pickard, who have been nominated for the High School Heisman Scholarship. Very proud of them. They're 2 great kids, great athletes, but also more important, great students. And then, as you know, Ashley was sworn in as our student rep. I was very excited about not just Ashley being voted in by her classmates, because she does a lot. She's a great leader in our school. She does a lot of, she's been doing it since she's been a freshman in high school. So I was very happy that she was voted in by her peers. But other students actually applied for that position, and we had 8 students, which I was really excited about. Isabel Avila, Luke Collins, Audrey Dahlman, Megan DeShano, Kyle Green, Elena Hatley, and Miranda Risher. So they applied for the position, they created videos, and our student body had an opportunity to vote this last Wednesday until Friday. So I was really glad that that many students were interested in serving with you. And then finally, I wanted to give some kudos to our advocate class, or our publication class, led by Ms. Potter, and they've been putting out videos every week of the news in Lodi High School, and that's been pretty exciting for our kids to watch during homeroom. So that is the high school. Thank you.
How do you think the videos are going over?
They love them. No, I think they're really well done. Stephen Ricks had a lot to do with that as well. So our AV lab basically was a detention room before. So they update a lot of technology, and there's a lot of special effects that they can use. So there's a green screen, so it's kind of interesting, some of the effects that they can put behind the students that are putting out the broadcast. So I think it's pretty popular. They're really well done. They're pretty creative. So, and I actually put a link in there for our last video, so you can take a look at it.
And it's just starting out. It'll grow over time.
Just starting out. So,
it's beautiful.
Thank you.
Curriculum.
Hi, everybody. On my board report, you'll notice the first thing that I'm highlighting is Foundations of Early Literacy. So if you've been tracking board reports all the way back to last school year, you'll see that's something that we have been focused on, and we've been highlighting as our data has pointed to that. We have some things that are really positive, but also some areas to grow. And if you know anything about the foundations of early reading and building a strong literacy program in a district, there is a science to it. There are building blocks to it. So you start with phonemic awareness. You develop and you implement a really strong phonemic awareness program in your district. And check, we did that. We did that last school year. We started the school year out this year with a Haggerty phonemic awareness program happening at our primary school. And I already can see, because I have my own students, my own children at the primary school, and I can see my daughter coming home and exhibiting those strong phonemic awareness skills. The next component of a strong literacy program in the district is a strong phonics program, so phonics, spelling, word study. And so we've been doing our research. We spent this summer working with folks at CISA 5, talking to experts in that area, taking our time to really dig in and do it right and look at all the programs that are out there. And we're into pilot mode. So we're starting this school year. We've got 2 programs that we're looking at for phonics at the primary school, and our educators are really excited to have those tools in their pocket, because I'll tell you what, we have awesome teachers. We just need some really great tools in their hands and some training so they can do their job really well. So that's what we're doing right now. We're looking at these 2 phonics programs. From phonics to reading is one of them that we're looking at, and then we're also going to be looking at phonics word study from Benchmark Company. Two highly rated phonics programs. We're going to get them in our teachers' hands. We're going to give them the training, and we're going to decide which program works best for us and our students. So that's kind of the next piece. Then we're going to focus on ensuring that phonics spelling word study is embedded not just at the primary school, but at the elementary school. And then we're attacking some ability to do some differentiation and some comprehension components. So we're excited about that work, continuing from last school year into this school year. The next piece that our data highlighted for us, middle school mathematics. So you may recall, if you followed my board reports, we started looking at that data last school year. We started attacking it already this summer. What we did is we brought in the Math Institute of Wisconsin to work with our middle school math educators to create and identify a vision for our middle school math program. We also at that time looked at highly rated math programs that were out there, and we narrowed the scope down to 4. This summer we had a vendor fair where we had a number of companies come in, share their resources with us. We let our middle school math teachers, those experts, dig into them, look through those resources. We also looked at the data from some other districts around the region, around the state, how they were doing. We identified some programs that we really like, but we want to see them in action. So our next step is we're going to do some site visits. We have our middle school math team is going to be going, and we're going to be visiting Wisconsin Dells School District, where they have a program that they're using called illustrative math. So we're going to check that out in action. We're going to talk to those teachers, find out the pros, find out the cons about that particular program. Then we're going to head to Mauston this school year, and we're going to see Ready Math in action. And there's one more we're still trying to schedule as well. Trying to get as much information for our educators so that they can make a decision that's not only going to be okay in the short term, but in the long term for our students, trying to do it right. So that's math education. Next on here, I highlighted, we have a growing English language learner population. We have a new position this year to help serve those students. So talk a little bit in here about what we've been doing for our ESL students in this first month, how we've been doing our DPI required screener for those students to identify exactly where the needs are so that we can take our new ESL learner specialist, Jennifer Morgan, and create her schedule to best serve the needs of our students. And then lastly, I talked a little bit about district accountability report cards. Those will be coming out in November, and I'm excited to share with you the things that from those report cards that we still need to work on, but also the positives that we'll see from those report cards. Any questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Nick.
Hellcat?
Oh, well, is there, I guess it's me, right?
It's you.
Okay. So Mr. Ricks and Mr. Bilsey gave a great report on what actually we talked about last time. There was a little talk about how successful that National Night Out had been, and that everybody's voting, I mean, the community as well as all of us, that doing it in Haberman Park was very, very successful, and everybody involved was happy about that. But the Delta 8 fact sheet, it was the big thing, and they didn't talk. If you go to the website, the LCAT website, there is a talk that's going to be given by Ben Court. In fact, it could have already happened. I'm not sure, but it's recorded.
It happened last Monday.
Pardon me?
It was last Monday.
Okay, and then you can watch it. It's recorded.
Yes.
So that's pretty much it. The only thing I would say is we're really talking about is bad for kids. I'm concerned about elderly people who go and medicate themselves and wouldn't realize this could be pretty tough on a 100-pound little lady that isn't sleeping and thought she could take care of herself. So that's all I have.
Yes. Student services.
Hello there. I have two things to highlight today. First, our self-assessment, which I've spoke about at other board meetings before, but we were able to come together again at the end of September to go through the compliance standards that need to be checked. We found that 20% of our evaluation paperwork and 65% of our IEP paperwork require corrective measures. So some of those possible corrective measures include things like staff training, professional development, revising IEP documents, and memorandums sent to staff members. I do want to give a shout out to our self-assessment team that did that work in September. Jason Marshall, Kim Radspinner, Renee Moldenhauer, Nora Mack, Sally Chapman, Abby Balwig, and Nick Franciscovich. The second piece here talks about our first developmental screener for the 21-22 school year. That took place in late September. 8 children and their caregivers attended the event. This is a screening opportunity for children who have recently turned 3 or will turn 3 this fall. And it's an opportunity for children to be observed in a play setting, engaging in typical preschool activities. Screening areas included fine motor skills, gross motor skills, cognitive skills, speech language development, vision and hearing. And caregivers helped assess their children's social skills and self-help skills through a parent questionnaire. At the end of the event, a service provider went over the results and provided information for caregivers on possible next steps. I also want to give some special thanks to that team of educators. Janelle Mosley, our EC and 4K teacher, Andy Rubino, our district school psychologist, Crystal Shaft, who is our district occupational therapist, Rebecca Eller, our district physical therapist. We had 2 speech language pathologists, Jen Fafisky and Megan Rohde, and also to the Lions Club for their help with the vision screening. We will also have developmental screeners on December 1st, January 5th, and April 6th for the community to access those days as well. Any questions about those 2 things?
You said there were 8 this time?
Yes, 8 students.
Thank you. Lodi Primary School.
All right, thank you. So I just wanted to first just highlight the 4K playground. That's just a huge thank you to all the community members that helped do the fundraising for that. Not this past year, but the year prior to that. So the students are very excited about the new monkey bars and the additional swings. So that looks amazing. Dr. Nick Carls talked about the phonics work. I'm really proud of the staff for just diving into some of this new learning. The teachers are very excited about the resources, and I think they're most excited that we can take our time to look at them, see what works with our students, and then just go through the process of figuring out what we're going to use for the long term. And then I also wanted to highlight the work that Mr. Potter and the tech team did with integration of STEAM this year. Obviously, last year we weren't able to dive into it in the same way we are now, but he and his team did an outstanding job really just getting that up and running for our students. So you can see some of the different activities that they have there. The students, they love this. So every 6 days, they have 45 to 60 minutes to engage in these activities. Just be creative, play, and just use their imagination. So it's just outstanding. So very grateful for that team.
And they're learning to code.
Absolutely.
Whether they realize it or not.
Absolutely so. Thank you.
Thanks. District Administrator report.
Yeah, I have a few things. One, first of all, obviously the internet's down today. It's been down since before 10 o'clock, and it's not something that's here local in our buildings. It's BadgerNet had equipment failure. They're working on it, so just appreciate all the work Jason and Tyler have put together today to make this happen. And they're filming this board meeting because we couldn't live stream it, so then we can upload it to YouTube afterwards. And also appreciate, as always, Maureen Palmer, who was feverishly making board packets for all of you.
Thank you, Mom.
Blast for the past. So we had things in front of us today, so really appreciate that. We will, at the end of the meeting, have to talk about how we want to have our November 8th board meeting. We cannot use this facility as the musical's coming up, right, Ashley?
Yeah.
Right? And Ashley will not be at our next board meeting because she is in the musical and has a very huge role in that. So we have already bumped the musical out of here twice, and we will bump them out again next Monday for the annual meeting. So we'll have to talk about how we want to do that meeting here at the end. And that just gives me also another reminder, the annual meeting is next week on the 18th at 7 o'clock in this facility right here. So please plan on being here and enjoying us. And plan on also putting the musical on your calendar. That's coming up here in mid to late mid-November. And finally, one of the things, just thanks to the high school staff and everybody else with homecoming week. The homecoming is set really at the high school, but all the buildings are participating in dress-up days and different things of that nature. It's just a lot of extra work and time, but it's such a huge part of our community and bringing people together. One of the things, I was at a volleyball game tonight prior to my daughter's volleyball game, and somebody had mentioned the neighboring district had their homecoming outside, and one of our parents snapped their head back, "We're having homecoming outside?" And we had talked about that in a lot of depth, and knowing that our homecoming was so late that you just can't predict the weather. And the last couple of weeks, it's been like, well, yeah, we could have had it outside. Just so you know, Mr. John, like the high on Saturday is supposed to be 57, the lowest 39.
Yes.
So having a tent and our young ladies in the dresses and probably would not have been a great time to have homecoming outside this coming Saturday. So that's one of the reasons we didn't do it. But we talked about it, but just knowing, you just never know what that weather's going to be like. Just thanks to everybody for all their work and continued work throughout the year.
So board president report, I'd just like to take a minute to thank the doctors of the medical advisory board that we put together. So Andrea Chow, Mashira Fukukawa, Nathan Grunwald, and Sabrina Buttress for taking time to, you guys are incredibly busy, and taking time out of your schedule to meet and advise us and give us current, latest knowledge and data. It's just an amazing thing that you do on behalf of the district. So I just wanted to say thank you. Reports from CISA 5.
I was not able to attend.
Okay. Co-curricular items.
I have no co-curricular report tonight.
You'll have a double one next time.
Yes. OSC, Barb is not here. Contract review.
I think we covered pretty much everything that we did in the meeting through the paid things.
Okay. Curriculum. So we had amazing curriculum. Nick, our curriculum committee meetings are amazing every month. Thank you. But the social studies came and gave a report. We learned about CIRCA and what social studies is doing in the schools. We learned about English as a second language services that we're providing in the community and how that's growing. And Jen Morgan again, it's like her board meeting tonight, how she's filling in on that role for us now and fitting in and getting those students up to speed and stuff like that, and where those students are spread out throughout the district and how it's all being handled. It was an amazing discussion. And then, again, Nick, thank you for giving such a wonderful breakdown of report cards that the state puts out and how they happen and why they happen and when they happen and all that stuff in explicit detail was just amazing. So when those report cards come out, you will do that again on this, not this stage, but over in the district office for everybody else, because it was an amazing thing. So, facility finance.
Yeah, we met on October 6th, and a lot of the items that we talked about at that committee meeting were on the agenda this evening. We also did have some trees cut down along the property line with the elementary school. We also talked about the PAC improvements and other facility master planning and green space master plan. And then we did spend some time on the annual meeting on how that would be, how we would do that. So.
Okay. And then policy.
Most of what we discussed was on your agenda for this evening.
Okay. So, do you want to discuss November 8th right now?
Yeah, that'd be a good idea. So, really, I mean, the only two places we can live stream with sound are in this or in the boardroom.
Okay.
So I would suggest we go back to the boardroom
Sure.
for November. The question becomes, depending on what we have for space, right? If we have all our administrators there, it makes it really difficult. So what we had done in previous times when COVID, it depends on the COVID numbers, right? It's hard for us. So I think at some point you and I will have to touch base, Adam.
Yes.
Like if we have public be there, or if public can come in and if they want to give public input, let them in one at a time like we did in the past, or have them do it through Google Meet, because we'll have that opportunity in the boardroom. Or if the numbers are low enough, then we just let public in. It's just hard to know how many people are going to show up.
No, I think that's a great idea. Just let it ride until we know where those numbers are. Because nationally, the numbers are dropping. Locally, they've been going up, and so.
Yeah, we're just behind. I mean,
right.
It started in the south. The surge started in the south, and now it's coming down in the south, and it came here later. So hopefully those numbers will start declining.
Yes.
Right.
Hopefully we can get rid of masks.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. But that's where that next. So I think we need to have it in the boardroom.
Yeah.
On November 8th, and then we will keep an eye on, and we'll communicate that out, how we will allow, whether we will allow public in, and how they will still be allowed to give public input.
Okay. Does anybody else have any comments on that?
No, it sounds like a good plan.
Okay. And then, when do we start to go to the schools for committee meetings? November?
Yeah, in November.
Okay, so that's the next one.
Yeah. So the other thing that we're looking at, future meetings.
Yeah.
Right? I will need to push the policy meeting.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Back to October 27th, so we'll do it after the contract review committee, which is that day. If that works for the policy committee.
Is that also Barb?
Barb's
No.
on the policy.
Policy said 20th.
27th.
Oh,
It's
you
on the
want to
20th.
push it to the 27th?
Yeah.
I will be back. I will be back.
Okay, so 27th work. I'll check with Barb, but Bill, it'll work at 27th?
I'm curriculum.
Your curriculum is what I thought.
The curriculum is pushed up a week. They made that. That's the 13th. That's
And I'm on
Wednesday.
contract reviews, I got that down.
So we'll make that motion move, and then if it doesn't work, then we'll just postpone it.
What time are you thinking?
6 o'clock, because it'll have to be after the contract review committee, which is at 4:30. Thank you for adjusting that.
Is she going to remind us?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I'll have more in mind.
Okay.
What I need is a motion for somebody to reconvene in closed session.
What were we going to talk about?
Oh, WSB.
Yeah,
WASB, oh, yes. Yes. Why was WASB not on reports? Guess it's not a regular thing you meet every month, so. Right?
So for WSB, we need to determine how we want to vote for our local representative.
Yes.
Right, so there's two people running. And our WSB rep is Mr. Whipperford, and our delegate is Ms. McKernan.
So we have to decide if we're going to vote for.
Well, I think we should, do you have both candidates
Yeah,
there in
you
front
want
of
me
you?
to read this?
Yes, please read both candidates' statements.
Okay, so we are Region 10. There are two nominees, Sandy Anderson, and this is just her, what would you say? Statement, yeah, statement. I am Sandy Anderson from the School District of Wild Rose, a small rural district in the center of the state. I was elected to the board in the spring of 1999 and currently serve as president, so that's her local board. Wild Rose holds a seat on the Board of Control for CISA 5. I became the district's representative on that board in 2003 and currently serve as the chairperson. I have served on the WASB Policy and Resolution Committee and have been the Wild Rose delegate at the Delegate Assembly for a number of years. I have achieved level 5 in the WASB Member Recognition Program and continue to attend conferences and seminars. I'm a firm believer in local control and strive to stay current and up to date with trends in education, legislation, policy, and governance to make the best decisions I can for the district. For the past 20 years, I've been employed as a universal banker at the Farmers State Bank in Wild Rose. I plan to retire in February of 2022 and start a new chapter. The opportunity to serve as Region 10 Director of the WASB has always been of interest to me. Having greater flexibility in my schedule due to retirement allows me to be a candidate for the position. Thank you for your time and consideration of me to represent you as the Director of the WASB. Bill Whipperforth. I have served on the Lodi School Board for 25 years, and I am the current Region 10 Director. Meeting people and trying to help them is very rewarding to me. I understand how hard it has been to conduct board meetings in person for the past year, but school boards in Region 10 have found ways to make it work. That makes me very proud of my fellow board members. In 2017, I achieved level 5 in the membership recognition program. Thank you for your support.
Do you want to just do a silent ballot, or we just write on a piece of paper, and then whatever comes up, that's what you vote for?
Yeah.
Okay. All of you have plenty of paper tonight.
Can we use some of this paper?
There's a regular shortage over there.
None of them are blank on that. I got one that's blank.
I
on
have
that.
plain paper right here, actually.
Okay. Why don't you just give us 6
Hang on.
each piece,
What can we use?
and then just write Bill, or what was the other one?
Yeah,
again?
1, 2, 3, 4.
There you go.
It's not going to be totally perfect here. At all.
It's gonna be one of those little shreds of paper.
So there's 2 more, so that's 5. I think it's, oh, we need, right?
Yeah.
That's mine.
The 11th.
Boy, did I get wrong.
Oh, we're doing it this way? All right.
Oh,
So I guess what we're doing is
Who we want?
voting for one or the other,
Yeah.
and then and then we can have one person, but it can't be Bill, to vote.
I think you're going
at
to do the
WASB,
voting, because you're going to
which-
be at the meeting anyways.
Yeah, but you have to do it earlier in the day, actually.
okay.
Okay.
I make a motion to.
You got it?
Mhm.
Good.
Sorry.
Okay, sorry. apologize.
Reconvene into closed session. Do I need to read the whole thing?
Yes.
Okay. Make a motion to adjourn to closed session pursuant to Wisconsin statute sections 19.85, 1, C, E, F, and G to consider employment and compensation and performance evaluation data, administrators, teachers, support staff, coaches, and.
I second it.
Motion by Angie and a second by Terry to go back into closed session. And it's a roll call vote always, so Terry?
Yeah.
Bill?
Yes.
Adam, yes?
Yes.
Julie?
Yes.
Christie?
Yes.
Okay, we are now back in closed session.
So we're going back to library.